Welcome to industrialscripts.co.uk, home of the Insider Interviews, a series of Q&As with people currently working at various levels and in different areas of the British film industry. The interviews are absolutely exclusive to Industrial Scripts and can't be accessed anywhere else.
Hi, I'm Danny Stack from the UK Scriptwriters podcast. Here I am talking to Jack Thorne, writer of the recent BBC Three series The Fades. So Jack, thank you so much for this little Skype, little two-way.
Awesome. Glorious to be here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, huge congratulations on The Fades, which has just finished. If anybody's listening and hasn't seen it yet, we're probably going to discuss one or two mild or heavy spoilers. And where have you been? It's been the best thing on TV so far this year. You should check it out on the iPlayer. I'm sure it's still available.
It is, and thank you. You're very kind.
Yeah, so go for it. So let's talk about The Fades, though. I mean, I think I heard you speaking about it before, or in different interviews where you went into the BBC and they said, "What would you like to do?" And you said, Ghostbusters, but you realised, nah, something else. So what kind of happened?
Well, it was a bit different from that. It was I went in and they asked what show would I have made if I'd made any show, and I in the last 10 years or something, I can't remember how she framed it, and I said Freaks and Geeks, and they said what about, and I was wearing a Ghostbusters t-shirt, and they said what about Ghostbusters meets Freaks and Geeks, and I said I could do that, and then I went home and tried to do it and couldn't do it. It was rubbish, and fell into this huge sort of hole of despair. And then went in and saw the script editor I was working with, who is an amazing woman called Esther Springer.
Yeah.
And Esther said, well then just let's use this commission to do what you want, and sort of about ghosts and all that kind of stuff. But it can be sort of that we were aiming for at the time. They were looking for shows for the Doctor Who slot, and so this Freaks and Geeks meets Ghostbusters drama was for that.
Fantastic.
And I said, I just don't think I'm capable of that sort of thing. And she said, well, then let's try doing something a bit more adult and a bit more you and a bit more. And that's when The Fade sort of started. And we kept talking and we kept doing stuff, but she kind of kept it from her execs.
Right.
And then we delivered.
Brilliant.
And they liked it. So it was that, though that was about 4 years ago, and it's taken this long to get screened. But that was sort of the start of it.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, actually, what kind of time frame are we looking at? So you say 4 years ago.
I started writing the script that was Short Stuff and Weird. That was the name of the terrible drama. About 5 years ago, and then it changed into The Fades about 4.5 years ago.
Okay.
And then yeah.
Well, let's get straight into the nitty-gritty bits about writing something like The Fades, because what I loved about it particularly, it was just a very bold and ambitious piece with lots of interesting kind of genre ideas in there, and unafraid to take them to dark and interesting places. So when you try and sit down and you've got your idea and you've maybe got your characters, what kind of stuff did you go through?
Well, the two things that I think are interesting that do you know what I mean? That I haven't when I was thinking about this and thinking about, do you know what I mean? Was sort of the fact that how these things work is sort of, you have to throw everything at it. Do you know what I mean? In terms of every idea you can think of, and then it's a matter of what's affordable.
Yeah.
And what can look good, and then you start trying to work that into something which sounds like a. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. No, I'm not expressing this very well at all.
Well, what kind of difficulties did you kind of find once you started kind of getting into it more and developing the premise and characters, expanding that, and because you realised, there must have been a moment of kind of sheer terror where it's like, oh my God, I've got my own series.
Yeah. There's many moments of those. I have them more or less weekly.
Did you have Esther all the time to bounce off ideas, or did you just go into it?
Yeah, Esther and the other script editor working on it, Richard Cookson, and the producer Caroline Skinner, and the exec actually, who was very, very much more involved than execs normally are, Sue Hogg.
Yeah.
And they all had loads and loads of ideas, and do you know what I mean? Like, Sue had quite a religious childhood, and so was very interested in all the religious aspects of it. Everyone had something that they brought to the party. Richard's into comics. I'm into fantasy novels, so not really into comics, and so he had a whole different thing on that sort of side of things. And and then it was sort of a matter of refining until you found something you could actually put on screen, and constantly. I mean, we piloted it, and then the series happened. And the interesting thing with the pilot was it wasn't scary. I mean, it was good in loads and loads of ways, I think. And the director, who was the same director that directed the first episode, did a great job, and all the actors were amazing in it. But it wasn't scary at all. And part of the reason it wasn't scary is because we tried to do stuff which we couldn't actually do on screen.
Yeah.
We tried to do stuff that that if you were a big Hollywood film, you'd get away with.
Yeah.
But the truth is that the things that work in work for television have to be, people walking down corridors. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why. Do you know what I mean? Those sorts of things happen quite a lot, and it's because you can get a lot of tension there, and you try and keep the beast away as much as possible, because your beast is never gonna. Do you know what I mean? Be able to do the stuff that you want it to do. He looked amazing. The work that they did with prosthetics, and do you know what I mean? Everything else was brilliant. But he wouldn't ever be able to do the stuff that you can do in a Hollywood film, because we don't have 5 days to shoot the fight, and we don't have special effects which allow arms to grow out of stuff and things like that. Is this noise really irritating, by the way?
That's what you're sanding next door or something. Is
Yeah. Is it really irritating?
Not at all. It adds a sense of just authenticity, and he's just a writer in the cupboard, folks.
Exactly. They're cutting me out.
Exactly.
Inside a steel container.
But no, that's interesting what you say, because the first 2 episodes for me, it's like the setup of the premise and the characters.
Yeah.
But I never really felt that it was hiding things away or it was budget constraints, because by episode 3, then something really clicked for me and it really took off.
Yeah, it's interesting. A few people have said that, and as I said to you on email, that's a thing that that's got me thinking quite a lot about, if we do get a series 2, how I don't let that happen again. It's because Ep 1, we worked on Ep 1 harder than any other Ep, and yet it didn't quite do the job that. Do you know what I mean? It did a really good job, and it's but it didn't quite do the job that it needed to do in order to drag people into the show. And how you do that, how the Ep 1s. I've written 2 Ep 1s now, 3 Ep 1s now, and they're just and I've not got it right yet, to be honest.
Yeah.
And how you do a really brilliant Ep 1 is kind of a really interesting thing, and I don't know quite how to do it yet.
No, pilot episodes are notoriously just tricky beasts altogether. But I think I read somewhere,
sometimes they work brilliantly. Sherlock, you know what I mean? That Ep 1 is, is just extraordinary, and First Step of Life on Mars, those are, and it's how you do that. Do you know what I mean? That's what I want to know how to do. How you do that. First Step of Shapeness, worth a genius.
I do have a little theory about it, actually.
Do you?
Yeah, which is like, there's 2 types. There's a premise pilot and there's a format pilot.
Yeah.
And I think I've invented that term, format pilot. I'm not too sure, but I've definitely read about premise pilots. Premise is where you just establish the characters in the premise, how they get to where they are in terms of what's going to be happening every week from then on.
Yeah.
Something like Lost, for example. And then a format pilot is like Sherlock or any medical or police thing, where the story of the week is up and running, but it's also introduced the main characters as well. Anything from Life on Mars, The X-Files, all that kind of stuff.
So is a format pilot easier than a premise pilot?
I think they're both bitches. Because you're trying to do so much, because you're trying to get the tone across, you're trying to get the premise and characters across, and that's what I found so unique about the Fades. I think it was its tone that was the most compelling about it, especially in those early eps anyway.
Cool.
Was that something, do you think, that came from all that group discussion, or do you think that was your vision in terms of this is a dark and uncompromising thing, I'm going to make it kicks people asses on the off the TV.
To be honest, I think it was it was a collaboration thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, it really was that everyone was, and not just in script form. Do you know what I mean? The brilliant thing that happened was that that we went on recce's together. So you're standing there with our location manager Jethro, who was brilliant. And I don't think location managers get enough respect in this industry, actually, because I think locations sometimes are the difference between a show looking quite shit and a show looking amazing. And I think the Fades in particular, we really benefited from getting some amazing locations in, from Neil's caravan, which looked like it's in a desert in the middle of, do you know what I mean? And it's just, and it's on a road outside Watford,
Wow.
and that shopping centre that he found. I mean, he's just fantastic. You'd stand in this shopping centre, and the shopping centre was genuinely spooky, to stand in, because it's a disused shopping centre and it's covered in bird shit, and it's horrible. Do you know what I mean? And you'd be standing there with your production designer, with the director, with me, with the producer, with the script editor, and be looking around at what you could do in the space, and we were looking around, and there was this big there was this set of escalators, and we were like, well, someone's he's got to fall down those set of escalators, and then we go further into the shopping centre, and there's a huge, great big glass skylight above a like a old-fashioned pool thing, and I asked, and we were constantly trying to work out what we could do cheaply, and I asked Farron how much it would be to have someone fall through that glass onto the thing, and he says, well, as long as we shot it from quite far away, it's actually not that difficult to do. If we did it close up, if we had to see her fall through the glass, then we wouldn't be able to afford it. But if we did it from quite far away, then we could probably do that quite easily, and it would look all right.
Which is what happened in the first episode.
Exactly. And I'd done 30 drafts of the script by then, but we were able to keep things loose enough that do you know what I mean? That we were still able to change quite a lot when we got to the location, which I think is I think I'm very lucky in that respect to have a production team that were prepared to do that.
Yeah, well, obviously with this kind of series as well, the director takes a huge amount of credit, I think, especially a TV director, because they're under such constraints.
Absolutely. Him and both Farron and Tom Shanklin, who directed 4, 5, and 6, just did an incredible job.
Awesome.
Incredibly short space of time, and they both brought totally different things to the party, which was brilliant too, in terms of that, because I wanted at the end of Act 3 everything to change. Do you know what I mean? As soon as that the twist happened at the end of Act 3, I wanted Act 4 to feel totally different. And to have a different director come in and give it a different tonal. I mean, that Farron's very beautiful and shoots these beautiful long shots, and do you know what I mean? And then you get Tom, who's just incredibly visceral, and do you know what I mean? And it just really helped the show, I think.
Yeah.
So again, I feel quite fortunate.
Well, I say as well, going back to another show, which I don't think you've written on, Misfits, I think, kind of helped us establish that kind of cool visual and cool genre show.
Yeah. Tom Green and Tom Harper. Yeah.
Oh yeah, brilliant. Of course, because you've worked with Tom on your feature film.
Yeah. And I hung out with Tom Green a bit, and he's also brilliant. So And if you haven't seen Tom Green's shorts from film school,
I haven't. No.
They're the best graduating short films I've ever seen.
Oh, I'll have to check them out. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. He got hired straight from film school onto Misfits.
Wow.
Yeah, that was his first job.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, that maybe is the nice little tangent point, so we can break off from Fades. Or we'll say just one more thing about the Fades, because we've spoken about everybody else in the crew. We'll give a hats off to the cast, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
Because they were amazing.
They get enough fucking credit.
Yeah. So, but we'll sneak them in because we love them.
They're amazing, and to be able to, do you know what I mean? Like, they did lots of stuff that I wasn't quite expecting, and I work with the same cast quite a lot. There's a few of them that I've worked with. I've worked with Joe Dempsey, who played John, the Reborn.
He was scarier than the FX pose.
Yes, brilliant. And I've worked with him about 5 times now, and just like it's just brilliant to be able to write for the same actors, like Johnny Harris and him, and do you know what I mean? And you know what and you know how to write for them. Do you know what I mean? You know their rhythms. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's just that's I think that's one of the best things about our job. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, let's rewind it a bit and go back to the beginning of your career, I suppose. Tell us about how you broke in, or what happened for you to, get where you are now.
I wrote a lot of plays. I wrote about 25 plays.
All produced?
No,
oh.
no.
I was thinking, my God, this guy is unstoppable.
Yeah, no, none of them produced until the 25th, which was a play called When You Cure Me. I sent to a lot of theatres. I did a lot of those courses. I did the Royal Court Young Writers Programme. I did the Soho Core Programme. I did them all. You know, right. Any course that I could get on, I did. Pains, Ploughs, Future Perfect, and then the Bush finally were generous enough to put one of the plays on, and that was called When You Cure Me, and that was December 2005.
Right.
And then Brian Elsley, who was looking to staff Skins, came and saw that, and from that I then started on Skins and Shameless, basically.
Skins and Shameless, like at the same time? They were just like...
Yeah. I wrote on both of them simultaneously for the first year.
Because
I was doing and I did a rough Channel 4's coming up at the same time too.
Oh, did you do one of them? Yeah.
Yeah, so it all sort of happened very quickly, from being do you know what I mean? You know, sitting in my room on my own to working, as many hours as I could fit in the day. I was very lucky, basically. But
you would bring it back to getting that kind of play on at the Bush, would you?
Yeah. Oh, that was the thing. That if I hadn't had that play on, I wouldn't have got anything. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that was the thing that really unlocked everything for me. And it's still one of the best things I've written. That was sort of the starting point for everything.
Cool.
For me.
And how old were you at this stage, if it's not too implied to ask?
It was December 2005, so 26. Yeah.
And did you feel, right, I'm ready now?
You know what, it might have been December 2004, thinking about it.
Right.
I think it might have been December, I think I was 25. Yeah, but who knows?
Were you interested in TV at that stage, or were you just focusing on theatre, thinking, this is nice?
I was really interested in TV, but everything I applied for, no one wanted me for. So, I applied for... it was the first year of the academy, so I applied for that.
Yeah.
And didn't get on.
Right.
And I applied for the Shadow Scheme at EastEnders.
Yeah.
BBC Writers' Room were being very nice to me and were helping me work up a script, and I worked up a script, and we sent that around, and still no one wanted to employ me. And I applied for assistant script editor on a few things, and no one was having it, and I was working in film, but I was working in development in film a bit.
Okay, fantastic. Well, so you were kind of fully immersive then in what you were doing and what you wanted to do.
I was basically taking any job that was available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you did Skins, which obviously you've spoken about at great length before.
Yeah.
It was a team thing with Brian Elsley, and it was a great success. You did Shameless. How many episodes of Shameless did you do?
Just one.
Just one. And did you get kind of mentoring from Paul Abbott, or was he in the room, or?
Yeah, I did a bit. That he got involved later on in the script. I developed the script for 4 drafts, and then Paul brought me to his apartment, and then we had a sit down, and we did a few drafts with him giving notes, which was really interesting. And do you know what I mean? The man's a genius, so it was kind of brilliant to work with him. So yeah.
Cool. And did you go from Shameless? Was it Shameless to Cast-Offs?
No, I did Shameless Series 4, I did Skins Series 1, Skins Series 2, I left Skins at the end of Series 2, and then was trying various different things, got, did the whole sort of TV merry-go-round, got a film, my film got shot, Scouting Book for Boys got shot, and then came up this very strange opportunity to do this, incredibly cheap drama about disabled people, and that was Cast-Offs. Yeah,
and that was really good as well.
Well, it was. I'm really proud of that show, but it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. That we shot for £100,000 an hour.
Yeah.
So we only had they were shooting 12 page days quite regularly. That it was a real sort of and you were restricted in the number of guest actors you could have, and you were restricted in the number of we did like 5 days on the island totally, or 6 days on the island totally, in which we had to do every shot set on the island, and then we had 3 days for the other stuff for each app. So it was but I'm working with actors that had never acted before in some cases, and then some really experienced actors, and I think that's one again where I think the directors deserve a huge amount of credit, and the producer deserves a huge amount of credit for making that work.
Yeah, that was really nicely shot as well, I remember, yeah. But are all this happening? I mean, the Scouting Book for Boys, was that the script on the Brit list, or was that a different script?
Yeah, that was the script on the Brit list.
Yeah, because that's probably available to download somewhere. I certainly downloaded it somewhere, I think.
All right, cool.
But, so did you find, I mean, we always get better the more we write, but the more you see your stuff being produced, that's when you really kind of figure out stuff, isn't it? Or kind of get revelations about things. Do you think you've kind of found any key insights into like your writing when you first started to the way your writing was when you were getting things made?
I don't know. I think in some ways you get, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, that there is a problem with learning the rules, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? That once you learn the rules, you sort of think that the rules are the thing that you need to keep to, and so you do less sticking out the sides. Do you know what I mean? Like, and the thing that you want to keep is the stuff that could be wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, So in some ways I think I'm a better writer, and in some ways I worry that I'm not quite as good. Do you know what I mean? Like, that I've lost that sort of. Do you know what I mean? Like, the sort of thing that kind of where you just kind of go, oh, I'll do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you don't quite know that you can't do that.
Absolutely. Well, I think, in terms of writers when they speak, normally when in an interview kind of thing, you speak about the positives. I like speaking about the negatives as well. Because it's not talked about enough in terms of writer insecurity. You know, just thinking you're a hack or you're going to be found out on a daily basis.
Too right.
So that's the kind of thing. Well, I deal with that quite regularly. But you just kind of write through it if you can. Yeah,
I mean, I'm the thing that I find, there's problems I've got with everything I've written, and the thing that was most difficult on the Fades was when I would, I read every single tweet written about the Fades, I read every single blog written about the Fades, and I'd wake up on Thursday morning, because it would air on Wednesday night. I'd wake up Thursday morning and I literally couldn't drink water. Do you know what I mean? My stomach would be so knotted.
Oh my god!
Do you know what I mean? Like, with the sort of the anguish of it all.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That I couldn't. When you can't really drink. That nothing will go into your mouth. Do you know that? Do you know what I mean? Like, and you just kind of go, oh. Do you know what I mean? I really shouldn't do this to myself, and I've got to work out how not to do this to myself. But then you end up doing it to yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But were you reading everything and going, oh my god, they're right. Oh my god, they're right.
Exactly. And you don't remember the good stuff. Do you know what I mean? The response on Twitter was the most positive I've had for anything I've ever worked on, which was a total shock to me. But the only tweets I remember are the ones which just go, oh, he ripped off the Green Mile, or oh, he did this, or oh, he did that. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you just kind of go, oh, fuck, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Well, the fact that it was on BBC Three, I think, helps a lot in terms of the audience thinks, this is ours. We don't care if critics piss over it. This is for us. It gets us. It gets our generation or whatever. But it was also something new and dark. I don't mind telling you, that kind of premise is kind of rife in the spec market in terms of some guy fighting or being the balance between good and evil.
Yeah.
So your spin on it was something more distinctive and original, which was great.
Cool.
So Scouting Book for Boys.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you did This Is England '86 with Shane, which we kind of spoke about last year on the podcast a little bit. But again, it's just more writing and collaboration anyway, which is a really good thing, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. No. It's brilliant to work with people you think are brilliant, you know, and I'm lucky enough to be doing a bit of that at the moment, but Shane is extraordinary. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I've never worked with someone that's got as good instincts as he's got, you know, God, long may it continue. Do you know what I mean? You know.
But are you working on This Is England '88?
Yeah, I wrote that with Shane, and then and that's shot, and then it's on in December of this year.
Fantastic. Well, you know, it's be no word of a lie to say you are one of the hottest, or if not the hottest, prospects of UK screenwriting in the country at the moment. You know, your form is on fire, so, you know, kudos, sir. So what's next?
I don't know. Hopefully the Fate series 2.
Yeah.
But who knows? We're still waiting for word, and then there's a few films that hopefully will happen. But with films, it's just such a long process that you never know quite what will happen next.
Yeah.
And then a few different TV stuff, you know, and I don't quite know that, and a bit of theatre stuff. I've got a lot of stuff sort of drifting around, and they all say they're quite close to happening, but you never know whether any of it will happen, you know. And like this year, I thought it was possible that 4 films could happen, and none of them did. So you know, you don't quite know what's going to be next, but yeah, I mean, you know, it's all good at the moment.
It is all good, yeah.
I can't complain really. So you know.
What kind of writing routine do you have, or try to stick to?
I sit at the computer about 10 a.m. I try and watch a thing in the morning, like an episode of a telly show or a thing when I wake up in the morning, which is nice. And then I sit at the computer about 10 a.m. and then I stay sat here till about 7, 8 o'clock.
Wow. And
then I go and eat, and then I come back at about 10, half 10, and then sit here for another couple of hours, and then I go to bed. It's a really fun life, I tell you.
But when you have commissions on the go, that must be easier, obviously.
Yeah, and it's nice. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that there's always someone for me to talk to.
Yeah.
If I'm stuck on a script, and that's very different from before Skins, and you know what I mean? You know, when you're sitting there and no one really wants to talk to you about your work. Do you know what I mean? That's tough, and I'm lucky not to be in that situation at the moment. You know.
Yes, indeed. Well, that's great. So, for all the new writers that might be listening right now, what kind of golden nugget of wisdom would you give them, or a kind of encouragement or something, to get them going again, or get them inspired to just keep on writing?
The thing that I always sort of tell is find a friend that you think is really good, and that you think is, you know, having that person to talk to about your work, I think is the best thing you can have, you know. And that person for me, when I was, when no one else was interested, was a writer called Laura Wade, who's an incredibly successful theatre writer. And we'd sit down and we'd read each other's work and we'd talk about each other's work, and we did it, you know, pretty regularly. And that person that's got faith in you and that thinks you're good is the most important person. And so, do you know what I mean? There's a lot of people who tell you you're not good enough. Do you know what I mean? Certainly a lot of people told me I wasn't good enough. Yeah. Having that one person that isn't related to you but does get what you do, I think is the best. You know what I mean? That's, you know, if I was starting out now, that would be the one thing that I did do then that I'd do again. Do you know what I mean? You know, and write to everyone, and you know what I mean. You know, send your stuff off to everyone, and do you know what I mean? You know, and all that stuff that you know everyone says to do. But you know, but I would find that friend. That was the best thing that happened to me in my early career.
That's great. I don't think I've heard that really as common advice. So that's we found something new now. Find a friend. And,
find a friend. That's my advice to the world.
But finally, though, what I'll get you to do is, like, if people have been hearing us talking about the fades and stuff, and if they've never seen it, never heard of it,
oh god,
how would you pitch it?
Well, in my Ponzi head, it would be I mean, literally, they stopped me describing it. Whenever we had to do press stuff, the press officer literally stopped me describing it after a while because I was so bad at describing it that the Caroline Skinner, the producer, would always describe the plot, and she'd describe it something along the lines of the boy fighting the forces of eternal darkness, or so. I don't know. She described it a lot better than that. And,
yeah.
For me, it's about the notion of what if death isn't fair. You know, that was the bit that got me started, and that was the bit that interested me, and that's the bit that would interest me if I was a viewer, I think. But then I'm slightly strange in my viewing habits.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be what if our ideas of what is, you know, that if you're good you go up and if you're bad you go down. What if that wasn't the case?
Yeah.
What would happen? And it's about people that are stuck on Earth, that are stuck for no reason whatsoever, and are frustrated and angry by it. And then it's about a boy thrust into the world of trying to protect the world from those people.
Yeah, well, that's still a good pitch. Lots of engaging questions and stuff.
Cool, wicked, good.
So, I suppose we'll wrap it up.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jack Thorne. Thank you, Jack Thorne's workman neighbour. Special thanks to him for making it so special.
Andy, he's a wicked guy.
Thanks for listening. I've been Danny Stack from the UK Scriptwriters Podcast. This interview, I think, is only available on the Industrial Scripts website, kind sponsors of the podcast, but you can check out the podcast at ukscriptwriters.podomatic.com for loads of other script chat. So thanks for listening, and thanks, Jack, again.
Thank you, man.